The vocal cords are a fascinating part of our anatomy. We take care of our fitness, our health through diet, we train our muscles, but not many people think about training the vocal cords. Yet they're one of the most important muscles in the human body. Remember when I said earlier, imagine you don't have a voice. How can you communicate when you cannot be heard? Well, hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of Impact Through Voice. I'm your host, Lisa Hugo, and today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important for anyone who uses their voice in their profession. I'm talking about being a resilient speaker. That means a speaker who can continuously use their voice, who can adapt their voice, who has a lot of flexibility in their voice, and they rarely suffer from any downtime, or if they do, they bounce back very quickly. As a speaker, your voice is your most precious asset. It doesn't matter if you're addressing a packed auditorium, if you're presenting on camera, if you're presenting a virtual event. Maintaining your vocal health and your clarity is crucial. So in this shorty episode today, I'm going to jump right in with some expert tips to make sure that your voice stays in top form all the time, so it doesn't easily fatigue or, even worse, start to become painful or hoarse. If you've ever lost your voice, you will suddenly realize the importance of this instrument and how hopelessly lost you are when you can't make yourself heard. I think most people have had this experience when you've been out with friends and you've tried to hold a conversation over a really loud background noise or the noise of a crowd, and the next morning you wake up and your voice feels raspy or hoarse. I know speakers who experience this feeling after speaking for just 30 minutes from a stage. And I know that many speakers come away from delivering a speech feeling exhausted. Well, speaking is physical. Speaking involves a whole series of different muscle groups to create sound. And the more animated you are as a speaker, the more you will work these muscle groups. So on today's episode, I'm going to give you some insights into how your voice works. And then I'm going to give you techniques and some basic exercises to warm up your voice and strengthen your instrument so that you can keep your energy present when you're speaking to any size audience. So first of all, I want to explain in very simple terms how your voice works. We all know the vocal cords sit in the throat, but they don't work magically on their own the minute that you decide to speak or to sing. Creating sound involves 3 key stages. Now that first stage, something has to initiate the sound production. So if you think of a wind instrument, you'll know that no sound is going to come out of that instrument unless you blow into it. That's why it's called a wind instrument. Well, your voice is similar. It needs air to initiate the sound production. That means your breath is your generator for your sound. And for this reason, how you manage your breath will be the foundation for how you speak. So if your breath is grounded and deep into your core, your voice will be grounded. But if your breath is shallow and you're only breathing into your upper chest, then your voice will be shallow and it will lack strength and it will lack depth. So training your breath and the muscles that are connected with breathing is an important part of working on your voice. Now, the second step in voice production or sound production is your vocal cords. They sit just behind your Adam's apple. Ladies, you've also got an Adam's apple. Let's call it your Eve's apple. It's just not as obvious as the male Adam's apple that protrudes right out in many people. To find your cords, I want you to run your fingers from your chin down your throat until you feel the first bump. Hold your fingers there and now swallow. Can you feel how the lump rises and falls? That's your larynx. which also has the function of blocking your esophagus when you swallow to prevent food from going down the wrong way. Now, keep your fingers there and create a sound. Ah. Feel the vibration behind your fingers. You should feel the cords are vibrating together just behind your fingers there to create sound. And they're creating that sound because they're riding on that bed of air coming up from down below. Now, the last stage in sound creation is resonance. So let's go back to the musical instrument concept. And I want you to think about how each instrument has a very unique sound. Well, that's because of the shape of the instrument, the size of the instrument, the kind of material that is used to create that instrument. That makes the instrument unique. A trumpet won't sound like a French horn. A French horn won't sound like a flute. The sound is reverberating around in the hollow spaces of that instrument. Now, your body has natural cavities for your voice to resonate in. And if you're using these cavities properly, then your voice will be full, it will be rich, it will be resonant, and it will be unique to you. But if you're not using these resonant spaces properly, then your voice might sound harsh, it might sound weak, it might sound thin, it might sound blocked. So this is where we get into needing to exercise our voice, to warm up our voice, and to learn how to maximize the full potential of our voice. So to help you to warm up and strengthen all the muscles that are connected with your voice, we need to exercise. So first and foremost, we are now going to start with warming up your voice. Huh? Lisa, did you say warming up your voice? Yes. But isn't that just for singers? Well, if singers need to warm up, then why not speakers? Think about it. It's exactly the same instrument that you're using, whether you're speaking or whether you're singing. Your vocal cords are delicate muscles. Now, you wouldn't go and run a marathon without stretching first, right? Well, the same goes for your voice. To help you to understand the importance of warm-ups and how they can benefit you, I'm going to talk you through some specific exercises and techniques. And then, if you want to get access to my complete speaker warm-ups to add into your daily routine, I'll put the link into the show notes where you can go and get your copy to download and have on your phone and be able to use them anywhere, anytime, even when you're driving in the car. Vocal warm-up exercises are like calisthenics for your vocal cords. You want to start gently and then build on that. An easy, gentle vocal warm-up is humming. That's closing your mouth and just creating a sound. Like I said, we start gentle. We don't take the voice too high. We don't go too low. You start in the middle of your range and you can start to work from there. Another great exercise is what I call a lip roll. That's taking you back to your childhood where you're blowing raspberries, but you add voice into that. A little tip if you're going to do it is to put your fingers on your cheeks just back from the corners of your mouth, and it makes it a bit easier, especially as you're first getting started. And again, we start in the mid-range. Don't take it too high or don't take it too low. And then as we're going to expand, we're going to go higher and higher into our range and lower into our range to give us more versatility and flexibility. One more is what I call a tongue trill. Not everybody can do it, but it's literally very similar to the lip rolls, but this time instead of rolling your lips, you're trilling your tongue. The tongue sits just behind the front teeth. Now, these exercises are really great also for connecting different registers. Now, I'm not going to go into too much depth into registers today, but you'll feel when your voice changes and crosses across into the head voice where you feel it in your head, the middle where you're feeling it resound in the middle, and the chest voice where you feel your voice is down low. Once you've warmed up gently, then you can start to expand more on your range, taking it into scales or slides or sirens. So that would sound something like this. On a hum or on a lip roll. I'm trying not to blow your ears. Or the same thing with a tongue trill. Now, the really great benefit of doing these exercises, it really connects you into your breath. So if you're trying these out with me now, you should be feeling that your core muscles are working quite intensely to support the flow of air, which is in turn supporting the sound. Now, warm-ups are important to get the blood flowing to your vocal cords, but to be a resilient speaker, you also need to work on vocal strength, on your breath support, and establishing your natural resonance. That's like going to the gym and doing strength training and stretching for the rest of your body. Well, we do this for the voice. So let's dive into some exercises now that could help you to build strength in your vocal cords. And one of my favorite exercises is using a straw phonation. You take a straw and you put it in a glass of water, and then you blow bubbles while making different sounds. Now, I don't have a glass of water here, so I'm not going to be doing that, but you can go and try it out. And it would be very similar to the lip rolls. So it'll sound something like that, but you're not rolling your lips, you're blowing through a straw. And the reason why this works so well is because you've got to channel your air through a small space, and then you see the bubbles. That's like a reward for you. The bigger the bubbles, it means you're working harder. And the muscles that you're going to feel you're working strongly will be your breath support muscles. Your breath is the foundation of your voice and of all of your speaking. So it's incredibly important that you build on muscle memory and you build on your strength and stamina to breathe from the core and support your voice from the core. Now, another exercise which is really great for strengthening your vocal cords is on a simple little arpeggio scale using a GO. That's a G-O. And we go up and down the scale with a goo, 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 goo. And the reason why this is so helpful is when you're creating that gut, your vocal cords have to stick together. They have to glue together to get that sound. If they're open, you'll hear it's very airy and you won't get a solid sound. So this is training your strength of your vocal cords. Now, important when you do this exercise that you don't have it sitting in your throat. You don't want to have goo, 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 goo. It's going to sound tight, it's going to sound ugly, and it's going to feel horrible. So make sure you are creating the g right in the center of your palate, and it will sound bright and crisp. Goo, 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 goo. Now, one more, which is really great for strengthening the vocal cords, is a B-A. That's a ba, ba. Now, you can hear it's staccato. That means it's short and crisp. And what happens there is your vocal cords stick together, and then as the air releases on the R, it just suddenly pops open. And then you're strengthening, you're holding together through the ba, and then you're popping it out as the air escapes back out. And that's creating a very strong connection for your cords as well. And you can take that up and down the scale too. Ba, 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 ba. All right. Now let's move on to post-speaking recovery. If you've had to deliver a demanding presentation, a high energy presentation, or you've had to speak for a long period of time, your vocal cords are going to need some TLC. Now, there are simple techniques to giving you that downtime, and they're probably going to sound quite intuitive or even common sense, but sometimes the most simple things need to be spelled out. Well, one of the most important things that your vocal cords need is hydration. You need to always have water with you. Make sure you're drinking throughout the day. And when you're drinking, drink at room temperature, not too cold and not too hot. Make sure you avoid caffeine and alcohol because these substances are going to dehydrate your vocal cords. Now, did you know that the water that you drink on stage doesn't reach your vocal cords until about 4 hours later? That means when you drink on stage or when you're in a recording session having sips of water, that water that you're sipping doesn't have any effect on your voice in that moment. You should be hydrating well in advance of a performance or a recording session, drinking room temperature all throughout the day. Don't wait until you feel thirsty because then it's too late. And as I said, avoid substances like coffee and alcohol because they will have the exact opposite effect and dry you out. To gain even more insights into vocal resilience, I'm going to explore some vocal care routines that many professionals use. Vocal rest. Might seem obvious, but your voice needs a break, especially after an intense speaking engagement. You might remember in episode 3, we had Devon Brown on the podcast, who is one of the world's most renowned event hosts, and he's one of the most booked event hosts. So he'll be going and doing 3 full days, high energy, keeping the energy in the room, motivating the crowds, introducing the speakers. So he was talking about the importance of downtime after a gig like this, not just for his voice, but for himself to re-energize. Like I said, speaking is physical. And if you're on stage or you're doing live coaching over several days, you will need rest. That's sleep and limited vocal use. Steam is also amazing for your vocal cords. You could do a steam inhalation, or you could just go into the shower, pump up the temperature, and breathe in that steam. If your voice is feeling tired or hoarse, make sure you listen to it. Pushing through vocal cords which are swollen and inflamed can lead to bigger problems with inflammation, nodules, or even a vocal hemorrhage. So be careful. What you eat can also affect your voice. Some people notice that when they eat dairy products, their body produces more mucus, making their voice sound unclear, blocked, or causing them to want to clear their throat more frequently. And speaking of clearing the throat, did you know that this can become a nasty habit that can put you into a constant spiral of feeling like you need to be clearing your throat all the time? In fact, you may be clearing your throat frequently without even realizing it until you listen to a recording of yourself back. Suffering from reflux can also lead to inflammation and swelling of your vocal cords. And then stress, nerves, and anxiety can play havoc on your entire body. But for many people, the voice is the first muscle that will show these signs of stress. Remember, your vocal cords are a thin membrane and they vibrate to create sound. When the muscles surrounding the vocal cords tense up, this prevents the vocal cords from vibrating freely and evenly, which can then lead to dysphonia, where the cords can't vibrate evenly, and the voice then will sound hoarse, weak, airy, crackly, or there may be no voice at all. In this case, you're going to need a vocal therapy to retrain the patterns of sound production, to alleviate the tension and to strengthen the sound-producing muscles. Now, the vocal cords are a fascinating part of our anatomy. We take care of our fitness, our health through diet, we train our muscles, but not many people think about training the vocal cords. Yet they're one of the most important muscles in the human body. Remember when I said earlier, imagine you don't have a voice. How can you communicate when you cannot be heard? So today, I've just tapped the surface of understanding your voice, exercising your voice, and signs that you need to be aware of. If you notice changes in your voice that don't feel or sound normal, and this persists for more than a few days, make sure you get your vocal cords checked by an otolaryngologist or an ENT. which is maybe easier to understand. That's an ear, nose, and throat specialist. But an otolaryngologist is an ENT that specializes in the vocal cords and the throat. So I'll also put a couple of links in the show notes to otolaryngologists in and around the UAE that I would recommend. On that note, I'm going to wrap up today's episode. Vocal health and vocal resilience isn't just about the voice, but it's about your overall well-being. A healthy lifestyle, proper nutrition, managing stress, these are all crucial components to your vocal health. Now, as always, practice makes perfect. Your voice represents you, your passion, and your expertise. So take time to understand this amazing instrument that you've got within. Take care of it. Learn how to use it to its full potential. Exercise it, and with care, it's going to serve you well throughout your entire speaking journey and your life. Well, congratulations, you just finished another episode of Impact Through Voice. You're well on your way to making a positive impact in the world with your voice. If you want more, head on over to lisahugo.com/podcast for show notes and all the links mentioned in our episode. And hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, please do me a favor, subscribe and also leave us a review. It really does make a difference. Both myself and my team love to read your comments, and it helps inspire future podcasts. Until next time, keep speaking your truth and making an impact through your voice.